I often wonder if I am an ideal husband. My job demands a lot of me and sometimes I come home feeling depressed. I don't have a lot of money, but we can live well, our home is beautiful, and we own 2 decent cars. At the end of the day, I consider myself a humble, hard-working man who values his family, and Gloria and I have had almost 12 years of happy married life. However, lately there seems to be something strange between us, a subtle change that is hard to pin down. Gloria has been displaying an indifference that I have never seen before. She is always quick to criticize me for the smallest of things, which is very unusual for her. I tried to talk to her and ask her if there was anything bothering her that she wasn't telling me, but like many wives she blamed it on exhaustion or a rough day. Being a romantic, I often brought Gloria roses after work to set the mood and surprise her. When I tried to be proactive she was either not in the mood or said she had a headache, and even when she agreed she remained passive and let me do all the hard work, and over time I found myself mentally withdrawing, and when I got home I spent my time with our kids and avoided dealing with Gloria as much as possible, which only worsened the situation. The more I thought about it, the more I couldn't shake the suspicion that she was having an affair. I tried to tell myself that she would never break up our marriage, but the feeling persisted, so I began to study the signs of infidelity, looking for any changes in behavior or habits. I considered hiring a private investigator, but without clear evidence, it seemed premature and unreasonable. I bought an old surveillance camera, secretly mounted it under the eaves of the garage, and attached it to a hidden tape device buried under a paint bucket, hoping to monitor any unidentified vehicles approaching our home, but after 2 weeks of surveillance, no suspicious vehicles were detected. On the other hand, her absences weren't very frequent and seemed too short a period of time for anything major to have happened, unless her possible lover was particularly fastidious, and these outings could have been just routine and she didn't think they were noteworthy enough to prove that she was having an affair. I suggested we go out to celebrate. We hadn't been out in months, maybe dinner and dancing would rekindle the fire between us that yearned to reconnect. I booked a table at Gloria's favorite restaurant, Plato's, and as we were seated, I hoped to rekindle some of the passion from our early days, but Gloria seemed anxious and I couldn't understand why. Although I suggested we change clubs, she preferred the one we frequented, with its quiet setting, dim lighting, and music for older people. Thoughts of intimacy lingered as I watched Gloria effortlessly walk across the dance floor, but my attention shifted when I realized I wasn't the only person in the room attracted to her. A very handsome man sat alone at a table in the corner, his eyes glued to Gloria's every move. I felt a pang of fear as I saw what appeared to be a brief contact between them. Did they know each other? Gloria disappeared into the restroom. I couldn't shake the nagging suspicion as Gloria ordered another drink. I paused for a moment. The thought of her being alone while I went to the bar didn't sit right with me, so I got the bartender's attention. As the waitress approached, I had the sickening feeling that the night was going to get worse, a visceral feeling I couldn't shake. She quickly regained her composure and innocently replied, "Which one?" But her tone revealed a hint of unease. I continued, "That guy over there is the one you exchanged glances with on your way to the restroom." I hadn't exchanged glances with anyone, and just as our drinks were being delivered I noticed Gloria's eyes flick over me, and turning around I noticed the man approaching our table completely ignoring me as he asked Gloria for a dance. "No thank you." I was speaking harshly and my tone showed my disgust as he responded mockingly, "I was talking to the lady whose giggles offended me." "Yes, this lady is my wife, the one I chose to dance with." She gently admonished, "You're being rude. Do you know this man?" My questioning caught her off guard. He was the man I was talking about. I expressed my displeasure vehemently. "Darren, you're being ridiculous," Gloria responded, her tone becoming more impatient. "If I wanted to dance, I couldn't believe that my wife was being so disrespectful to me." She'd never shown such contempt before. I was furious, but tried to keep my composure as she continued to speak. "Darling, I'm just trying to have some fun," she said, her voice becoming softer. Gloria, it's our anniversary and I want to have some fun, but sitting here watching you dance with someone else is not what I want." "You're right, I don't own you. I can't stop you from dancing with him, but if you do dance with him, make sure he takes you home too, because I'm leaving after 12 years with him." I was shocked that she couldn't see the emotion on my face. It was polite to make the gentleman wait while we debated. "I'm going to dance with him and we'll talk afterward." I'm sure they didn't notice me leave because I slipped out the door before they even started dancing. That's when my cell phone rang. "I've been walking for blocks. Where the hell are you?" Gloria's voice sounded sorry on the phone. "I went home to pack." "Why?" "I'm not sure yet, but I need to get away from you, and I strongly suggest that I'm at the end of my rope." "You can't be serious, Darren, for God's sake, it's just a dance. Are you really going to give up 12 years of marriage for this?" When he came to our table he treated me with the same contempt as a man would treat the spouse of a woman with whom he was in a relationship. I said firmly, "Not at all." Darren's voice softened. "I love you and respect you. I swear nothing happened between me and that man. I would never cheat on you. Why would you think that? Don't tell me you respect me. Your behavior tonight proves it. If you're not having an affair, you're certainly acting like one. I apologize for my behavior. I apologize for my behavior tonight. I apologize for giving you reason to believe that I'm having an affair." Another short pause. "I think I did look at that man on my way to the bathroom. He's very handsome. And I spotted him while I was dancing." "No, I've already said that. I've had enough of that. I told you that if you danced with that man you'd have to go home on your own. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm currently parking my car in the driveway of our house, and by the time you get home, I'll be gone. If you're having an affair, you should go home with your lover and forget about me, honey. Please believe me, I'm not having an affair. Listen, I'll take a cab home, but please stay there until I get home," Gloria pleaded desperately, her voice a stark contrast to what it used to be. She pleaded, then abruptly ended the conversation. When I arrived home I quickly packed my bags and left the house. Curiosity haunted me for 12 minutes. Would Gloria take a cab home or would the men drive her home? I was almost convinced that Gloria and the men she danced with knew each other. Maybe it was time to hire a private investigator. If I wasn't home maybe she would seek solace from her lover the next day. I scoured the yellow pages and found the most promising private investigator. After visiting his office and submitting a retainer I went to work. My secretary Joan told me that Gloria had made 20 phone calls and something was wrong with it. I also told the receptionist not to let Gloria into the office if she showed up. I needed to give that person the chance to discover the truth. "You suspect she's cheating on you? Do you really believe that?" "Unfortunately, I believe it." I said her behavior had been strange for over 2 months, and what happened the other night only confirmed my suspicions when she challenged me that she was just dancing with a man. "Seriously, I believe you are jumping to conclusions. I've been your neighbor for years. If Gloria was unfaithful to you I would have noticed something. I've never noticed any strange cars parked in front of your house, nor have I seen any strange men come and go. Please believe me, Darren. I know Gloria. She wouldn't have been unfaithful. I'm no longer sure. Andrea's behavior that night did not reflect her feelings for you. Please believe me, Darren. I know Andrea has a point, but I need to give the private investigator time to work. Andrea, please do me a favor and let her know that I will be calling her in a few weeks. I still need time to think things over." There was another moan on the phone. "Okay, Darren, I will forward the message, but please agree to call her then." "Okay, I promise," I reassured her, and after saying goodbye I found myself thinking again. Andrea and her husband Jack were good friends, and I couldn't imagine her lying to me. If Gloria was really being unfaithful, would she lie to me? If Gloria was truly unfaithful to me, she would disguise it well. I felt very anxious for the next 2 weeks, and I contacted the investigator several times with no significant progress. He eventually invited me to his office, and when I sat down, my stomach twisted with nervousness. After conducting a thorough investigation, this office found no evidence to corroborate the client's claim that his spouse was unfaithful. I felt as if the ground shifted beneath me, and I looked up at the investigator, unsure of how to respond. "Mr. Barnes," the investigator suggested, "that you gently return to your wife and children. Happy endings are rare in my line of work." I thanked the investigator and returned to my hotel room, knowing I needed more time to reflect over the weekend. Gloria responded to me, her voice shaking with emotion. "I apologize. I see now that I took you for granted. You were right. I should have told the man that I was with my husband and not interested in him. I don't know why I was so disrespectful to you. I respect you. I love you. I promise you, Darren, if you give me another chance, I will never make the same mistake." I was taken aback by her moving plea. It was a stark contrast to her behavior in the ballroom. I hesitated to react when she snapped to a conclusion. "You won't be coming back, will you?" she asked me with sadness in her voice. "No, Gloria, I will come back," I assured her, but only tentatively. "I want my wife back." I promised her that I would go to the motel after work and pack my bags, but I would be home tonight. "I love you, Darren. I sincerely apologize for the way I treated you. I don't want to lose you." Despite what she said, I couldn't get over it. I was still upset. I couldn't get over the suspense despite the evidence that I knew the men in the ballroom. Gloria was there, and she put her arms around me and gave me a passionate kiss, and at that moment I kissed her back passionately. I couldn't deny that I still loved my wife. Last night was our 14th wedding anniversary, and Gloria was in charge of preparing the whole evening, and when I got home from work she gave me a ticket to the dinner theater to see Men of La Mancha, one of my favorite plays. Accompanied by the beautiful moonlight and the gentle breeze blowing off the lake, we strolled along the shore of the lake, feeling like a scene out of a romance movie. "I love you, my darling," I murmured, feeling that our relationship was still in the honeymoon stage. "I love you so much, my darling," my beloved wife said, her eyes sparkling with devotion. Even though the calendar showed that spring had arrived a few weeks ago, Gloria couldn't leave the house without a thick winter coat, which until today had represented the final end of another harsh winter in Chicago. Gloria stepped outside and took a deep breath of the fresh morning air, the smell left behind by the mild April showers that had fallen overnight. Gloria's sight of the brilliant blue flowers blooming in her yard, which had stubbornly thrived in the face of winter's adversity, reminded her of the natural longing for spring. Gloria arrives at a cozy cafe to meet up with Zara, a friend she hasn't seen in a long time. Zara has a boy the same age as Gloria's daughter, Vanessa. Their connection grew during a school event a few years ago, and they've remained close friends ever since, sharing each other's joys and difficulties. Zara arrives at the store early and finds a cozy table in the corner near the window. As Gloria joined the long line of customers eagerly awaiting Colombian bliss, Zara smiled and noticed Gloria and Rose. They both exclaimed, "Hi," and exchanged a warm hug before settling into their seats. Gloria said, "It's been a long time. How have you been?" Zara's eyes lit up as she relayed how they were doing. They reminisced about the old days and laughed about school stories about the kids. Went on, and they marveled at how quickly time had gone by as they got into the conversation. Zara leaned in closer and lowered her voice. Gloria whispered, "Can you keep this an absolute secret?" "I probably shouldn't be telling you this," Zara made her excitement clear, "but I've been fine." Gloria's coffee paused in mid-sip and she looked at her friend in surprise. "Are you saying you're thinking about an affair?" "It's Eric. He's different, you know. He makes me feel alive, but I'm afraid he'll lose interest if I don't pursue it further." "Wait," Gloria interjected, her voice filled with concern. "Have you considered the consequences?" "I'm not saying I'm going to leave Nick or anything, it's just a little irritation." She smiled, "The spice of life, as they say. Don't worry, I'll make sure Nick never finds out. He'd be devastated if he knew, and Eric is married. We need to be discreet." After 2 years of keeping the secret, she decided to tell Zara. "Zara, remember a few years ago when Darren and I went through a difficult time?" Gloria said in a serious tone, and Zara nodded solemnly. "Of course, Gloria. I assure you that if this got out, it could destroy my marriage, which is why I've kept it a secret." Gloria paused for a moment, waiting for the waitress to refill their coffee cups before continuing, her voice low and urgent. Zara interrupted, her eyes indicating understanding. "I know exactly how you feel, Zara. I'm sure most ladies have had similar experiences. I don't mean to say that I don't adore your husband, and I love Darren with all of my heart, but right now I feel as if something is missing. I'm starting to feel like I'm caught up in a mild sadness, and nothing is exciting anymore, not even the sex. In the bedroom I should have been ecstatic, but nothing seemed to improve my mood, even school activities." Gloria paused for a moment and took a sip of her coffee, gauging Zara's reaction and noting the focused expressions of her friends before continuing. "And then I met Louis. Did you know you were having an affair?" Gloria nodded solemnly, "Yes. Luckily I came to my senses before it got physical. I'm tall too, even with his clothes on. He was clearly over 6 feet tall. I could tell he was well built and I couldn't take my eyes off him until he caught my gaze. I wanted to concentrate on my shopping, so I walked towards the fruit section and accidentally bumped into him as I picked up a couple tomatoes. He extended his hand to shake mine and introduced himself, and even though he saw my wedding ring, he continued to pursue me, and it was comforting to think that a man like him might be interested in me. As we crossed the aisle to check out, he confidently offered me his phone number and suggested we have lunch next week." Zara listened carefully to Glory's story and found it very familiar. Zara asked me curiously, and instead of throwing away the card, I put it in my wallet. On the way home, all I could think about was Louis Darren as I was packing groceries. It was like an unconscious defense mechanism, and poor Darren just asked me if something was wrong, and oh my God, what did you tell him? I naturally lied. I said I was just a little tired from grocery shopping, and to be honest, I was secretly happy about that, and Gloria went on to say, "I know I shouldn't have called him, it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't call him, it was wrong, and I realized I was vulnerable, and I kept telling myself not to, but I couldn't help it, and I found one of the last pay phones in the city and dialed the number on his card." At one point, Louis reached across the table and took my hand. I had a strong urge to have a physical relationship with him, but guilt or perhaps fear prevented me from acting on it. But Louis persisted, and he subtly demeaned Darren, making me doubt our relationship. He subtly degraded Darren and made me doubt our relationship, and I was stupid enough to fall for his trap, and I found myself beginning to resent my husband. "Has your man mentioned Nick?" "Not yet," Zara answered. After a pause he asked a few questions, like, "Does your husband realize how lucky he is or anything like that?" "I understand," Gloria nodded. Now you're starting to wonder, aren't you, Zara? It's amazing how things can come to light when Darren leaves. When Darren left, he mentioned that I'd been estranged from him for more than 2 months, and I hadn't even realized it. Our closeness was preventing me from feeling passion, Gloria. Leah pointedly raised the issue, and Zara pondered Gloria's words as Gloria continued her story. By the third lunch, he had almost convinced me to return to his place. I sensed his frustration with my excuses, and I knew that if we had lunch one more time, we'd end up in bed. I hinted to him that we could go to one of the dance halls we used to like to go to and reminisce about our past. Louis saw the opportunity and jumped at it. He insisted on going to the dance hall with us, saying he would dance with me. I reminded him that it was our anniversary and dancing with someone else might upset Darren, but Louis arrogantly dismissed my concerns, claiming that it would teach Darren a lesson. My Gloria, did he really show up at DS? Zara asked in surprise. Gloria took a sip of her coffee before answering. He did show up. I spotted him as soon as we arrived. Naturally, I ignored him. Darren and I were having a great time until Louis came up to me and asked me to dance. My God, Zara was shocked. Yes, and to make matters worse, he completely ignored Darren, even being rude to him. Naturally, Darren was furious and gave me an ultimatum that I couldn't dance with Louis, and you know how stubborn I am. I said I wasn't happy and insisted on dancing with him. Anyway, Darren warned me that he wouldn't be there after we danced, but who takes such threats seriously? I asked him why he was being so disrespectful, and he replied that he wanted Darren to put himself in his place, which made me even angrier. Of course, Louis kept holding me close while we danced, but I was mostly worried if Darren was watching and getting angrier. When the music stopped, I told Louis to stop dancing and said I was going to spend the rest of the night with my husband. As I walked back to our table, I saw Louis following me and I wondered what he was doing. He said he wanted to apologize to Darren. When we came back, Darren had already left, and I sat down and casually said he would stay with me until Darren came back. Puzzled, I asked what he had to gain by doing that. My guess was that he hadn't succeeded in seducing me, so he was trying to create discord between Darren and I. He probably wanted me to look to him for comfort and expect us to be together by the end of the night. Thinking that Darren had gone to the restroom, I urged Louis back to his table, but he hesitated when the waiter came by and he took the opportunity to order drinks. I feel like I've witnessed the breakup of my entire married life, and I can't imagine him leaving me like this. Gloria's pain was overflowing as she recounted her tailspin, and Zara couldn't help but feel her friend's pain. Emotions churned within Zara. Soon a tear trickled down her cheek. You don't have to tell me about this, Gloria, Zara said, her voice filled with sympathy. You're so sad, and maybe we should pause for a moment. No, I need to tell you everything, Zara, Gloria insisted with her determination. You need to be fully informed, it's vital. I immediately dialed Darren's number and asked him to come back and pick me up. He dropped the bombshell on the phone. He suspected I was having an affair, possibly with Louis. He said he was thinking of packing his bags and leaving and wasn't sure if he'd be back. Gloria grabbed a napkin and wiped the tears out of her eyes, and I realized that I was risking my entire marriage for a moron. I pleaded with Darren to come back so that we could talk about it, but he refused, so I called a cab. What was Louis doing in the meantime? Zara asked him. He hadn't given up. I rejected him immediately, she recalled with a laugh, but he insisted on going out with me and made a pass at me. When the cab arrived, I didn't hesitate to knee him in the groin, and he doubled over in pain. Zara reached out and clutched her friend's hand, and Gloria brushed away her tears. When I got home, Darren was gone. I tried calling him, but he was off. Zara, I was scared. I saw my marriage crumbling before my eyes, everything we built, our whole family, and I'd never been so scared. The next day, I tried going to his office to see him, but he refused. His secretary said that if I went to him, he would refuse to see me. Given Darren's good relationship with her and her husband, I hoped she could convince him to talk to me, and surprisingly, he did talk to her, but only to say that he needed time to think about it and to promise to contact me in a few weeks. She wiped a tear from her eye and said to Zara, even now, I'm having a hard time accepting this. She took a deep breath and continued her story. Like I said earlier, when Darren finally called and said he was coming home, Zara, I was on the verge of losing everything. I love Darren, and he loves me, and in my opinion, no man is worth the risk I'd take for him. Wow, Zara replied thoughtfully. You're so right. I can't imagine what I'd do if my husband left. Have you ever confessed the truth to Darren? Have you ever confessed the truth to Darren? Are you kidding me? After almost losing him, I can't take the same risk, Sarah. I live in constant fear of him finding out the truth. I can only hope that if he does find out the truth, that it will be enough. Zara gave Gloria's hand a comforting squeeze. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with me, Gloria. You saved me from a huge mistake. Thank you. The two friends chatted a little longer, and then tentatively set up a time to next meeting time, and then said their goodbyes. Gloria felt fulfilled knowing that she had just saved her friend from a disastrous choice, which she made at home just in time for her daughter's dismissal from school, where she kissed her daughter and gave her a snack. That night, Darren slept peacefully beside Gloria, who turned on her side and propped herself up on her elbow, studying the lines on his face, each one representing the passage of time and precious memories. "I thought you were asleep," Gloria whispered. "I was actually wondering what to get Vanessa for her birthday," he replied. "You know what she really needs." "A little brother or sister?" Gloria asked. Darren said, and while it wasn't entirely surprising, the suggestion of expanding the family brought a smile to Gloria's face, and it appeared that her husband had made the decision for them. Mom and Dad invited all of her friends, making sure everyone got plenty of ice cream and cake, and after the celebration, Gloria and Darren brought their daughter another special gift and the happy news of a baby brother on the way.